van, they gave us the driver, and they sent us down to Niagara for the day, and we went wine tasting, and then we got back to my place, and I have like an outdoor pool and a distillery, and in a condo, so we were all out there swimming the night, so we're pretty deep at this point, it's a long day, and then I'm in my kitchen, and we're all drinking, and Kris is having he's having a drink with Danielle, and I look in the fridge to get a drink, and I just see, and I'm like, it's probably a good point for Saul to eat some melon. Maybe with this smeared all over it. So I cut it quietly in the corner, spread it all over this melon.
Just one piece of
melon. Just one piece of melon, just go to Kris, and it was like a situation.
No, he was more conniving than that, because he knew that he could not have held back his mirth. So he sent it with a deliverer. So I'm sitting there, and yes, we're well into it. You know, after a long day of drinking and other shenanigans, a watermelon sometimes just hits the spot. Right? So here comes this innocent young woman with, Kris, would you like a watermelon? I'm like, you bet I would. And I'm standing by the window, I have this glass of wine, I've got this watermelon, taking a nice big bite of it. I'm talking to Danielle, his Paul's partner, and I'm talking away. And I'm well enough gone at this point that I don't even really recognize what's happening to my face or mouth. All I know is that there's a fire and a numbness. And I thought I was having a stroke. I'm literally sitting there going, am I smelling burnt toast? Why can't I talk properly? Why are my lips 2 feet long and my tongue the size of my leg? What's happening to me? And I look up, and at this point, Danielle's looking at me going, you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. And then she looks over, and Paul is rolling around on the floor, peeing himself laughing. And I still can't make the, and Danielle's like, what is with Paul? My God, look at him. And I forever, I've got Paul's back, and I'm like, Danielle, you just have to, it's part of the personality, it loves being funny. It's just, and like she goes to pick up her water, don't eat the watermelon. And only then do we realize, oh fuck, I've been had. And yeah, so
then on set, there's an actor who plays a friend of X's in the show, a guy called Luke, and it was towards the end of the show when we were filming, and we had like 2 days left, and we finished our scene, so we had a couple of beers in the trailer, and Rachel's there, and Rachel's really bad because she's always trying to play tricks and pranks on people. And I told her about this prank, and she was so in for it, and I said, I'm gonna get a beer bottle, and I'm gonna like smudge it all in the hottest pepper in the world, and he just won't know. So we're all sat in Kris's trailer, like all the actors, and he's a young kid, so he's with the big crew, he's with the big boys. And we're all there, and I go, hey, you want a beer? And I give it to him. And he just lost the plot. But the worst thing that happened was his lips started to, like all of a sudden they started kind of explode a little.
Like swelling, red.
And his whole face started turning red.
Sweating.
And he's like a really good looking young guy. And we were looking at him, we're in hysterics, but then it just doesn't stop and stop. And we were just so lucky that it was like, he had
I had to go get like yogurt. He was like
smearing yogurt all over the face. Yeah. That's what I like to do.
And then we got Scarson. On the last day after Scarson got wrapped, you did the same thing on a bottle of beer, and then he also got her water bottle too. So she went from the beer to like, oh my god, to the water. It was like, oh! And we were still filming.
It was later, because first I gave her, we got given this really beautiful gift by Anna, which was to drink out of, and we were pouring champagne in there. We just literally finished the job. It was like the last day. So we had poured her in there, and then as she left her room, I got in her room and smeared this whole thing that Anna had bought her. And then I did a water bottle in a corner. So then we were filming the last scene, she was done. Last scene ever on Lost Girl. And we're there, and she comes into the bar in front of the whole crew, and she's fucking hitting me. How dare you! So we're laughing our heads off, and like she's like, and everyone in the crew is laughing.
Because he also did he created a tray that day. It was like a Russian roulette tray where it was all little pieces of melon, and he'd rubbed about 50% of the melons with this pepper. And then people knew. They were like, "Hey, you want to play?" That's your own risk. And so like half the crew knew.
So they all knew, and they were all laughing. So we finished that, and she goes away. Then literally about 15 minutes later, just after it started to die down, she went into her room and drank out of the water bottle. So then she came into the scene again. She goes, "I can't believe you did my water bottle!" Yeah, that was our last day on art school. Yeah, she'll never forget it. No.
You really are evil dark bag.
Of course, you gotta know it to play it.
Anyone else? We got about 15 minutes, I guess.
Not 5 minutes, I think.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Gentlemen in the back.
Can you tell us about Captain Canuck? You both work
Yes,
on
it's
that?
pronounced Canuck.
Canuck.
Canuck. Yeah, we get all kinds of pronunciations. Yeah, that's a fantastic project. That Captain Canuck is a comic book that was originally started by Richard Cumley in the early mid-70s in Canada. It has had several sort of remanifestations, incarnations over the years. But right now, the most recent one is Fadi Hakim, who is a friend of Paul's and owns a few restaurants in the city. He used to read this comic book as a kid, and in his kids menu, he put the Captain Canuck hamburger or whatever. And he just sort of got his mind thinking. He looked into the rights to it, got in touch with Richard Cumley, got the rights, the permission to use them. And then,
and he's a huge comic book nerd himself, so and he knows a lot of people in the city by way of owning a lot of the most popular restaurants. And yeah, he seemed to be able to create a connection, a network of people who are like the better people, who, you know, some amazing animators, and Silver Snail, George of the Silver Snail, who you know is the biggest comic book store probably in Canada.
And yeah, it's what it is basically. It's the reincarnation of the franchise. It's right now you can go out and check out on CaptainCanuck.com. There's 5 webisodes, which which when all put together, when watched back to back, make one half-hour episode. And that's sort of our calling card right now. And what we want to do with this is we're talking to E1, which is a big distributor in Canada. And we're thinking, hopefully, we do a big feature film, animated feature, which then will spin off into an animated series.
Yeah, it's got a great cast. I mean,
Tatiana Bernardi, Laura Vandervoort,
You guys should be in the next month.
I'd love to do that.
Oh, I'd love to.
What a brilliant show.
I think we got time for maybe one more question.
Yes. Sure. Yes, you.
Fire away.
Brownie
The
queen.
brownie lady?
Oh, did you like your brownies
I
that way?
had no time.
No, they're for tomorrow with my daughter.
Oh,
They're from the movie.
how much of your character is written, and how much do you bring? How much are you able to influence when you're playing? Especially for you, because I'm feeling you're very, very naughty by design.
Good question. It's like,
I've influenced the track of the character through, because what happens generally, because it's hard to do when you're filming the show throughout the season. You just don't have, there's no time. The writers generally, they're not as accessible. So what happens at the beginning of each season is that generally you try and meet with the showrunner or maybe the exec a little, and they'll tell you what they have planned, and then you can sometimes tell them what you think that should happen, or what you think would be an interesting journey for the character to go on. Some things they pick up on, some things they don't. A lot they don't. But
they're also forced by the structure. Like they have to facilitate certain storylines, most especially Anna's. And so, you know, it's always a struggle to get the different storylines to be represented. And
it's just the core of the character sometimes is what you can try and protect a little. It's like the journey of the core of the character. Like, I mean, for instance, with Vex, I mean, there were times where it was like, well, I don't know whether I can be in every episode, to be honest, because I think this character is going to become a bit, it'll be too much, and we're not at the point where I can like do other things with it right now because there's not enough info. So then you try and do it in smart ways because you know that you're not going to contract it even to do only X amount of episodes or whatever. So you've got to try and figure out what would be a really interesting arc and journey for this character given what I have. And sometimes you talk to them that way. And I felt personally, I mean, for the character by and large throughout the 5 seasons, they've done a fairly good job of that. But a lot of the scenes and the things that they get you to do and all the other kind of the rest of it is I've got nothing to do with. The only thing I was like, you know, it'd be great, interesting if you got a challenge right now. Maybe what happens if he lost his power, because he's like the most powerful Fae. And then I was like, okay. And then I was like, what happens if there was an army of Mesmers? If there was a whole clan of them that nobody could mess with them really? So what if he's the only one? What if like they got rid of them because they were too powerful? So some of those storylines are things that I came up with and offered to them, and I thought that'd be really interesting from Vex's point of view. Somebody who's lost all his family to try and find a family, which then it opens up a different way of looking at the character for people who watch the show. Which is then you have the character who at the beginning you hated and you know had all this stuff going on, and then you start to, because people in life, you know, it's only trying to find out what was behind it. People do really terrible things sometimes, but once you find out what the whole track to get them there was, you're like, well, you know, maybe there wasn't much option, or there wasn't always an option, but you know, you have to give reason to things, and I think our show does a pretty good job of that by and large, over a lot of other shows.
Yeah, the writers are, they are sort of hamstrung or sort of, locked in with having to, you know, one, there's also the network. It's not just writers, right? There's a lot of people who put in their 2 cents about these characters and story arc. So even though we're playing these characters, and a lot of times we'll have great ideas about them, they may not be usable within the shows, what they have to get done in that season. I've over the years given them a lot of great stuff, which has sort of come out in little ways, like in episode 205, where we went into Dyson's backstory a bit. The way we even ended season 1, where when Dyson runs off into the woods, they didn't know how to end the Bo Dyson storyline, and it was just, that's out, and I was like, look, just have him run out like a wounded animal. We'll have him run away into the woods, as opposed to, originally they were trying to write this big scene of me and Anna where it was like, well, this thing called the Norn did this, and they don't know, and, you know, and it was like, no, let's stop explaining. Let's just live it, you know, let these characters react. This is one of the things that you always struggle with on TV, is that they often want to overwrite it to explain it because they're caught within the bounds of, what if someone's just tuning into the show for the first time this episode, you know? It's like, yeah, yes, you have to have things that are presentable in a way that, yes, that person can get into the show, but I really don't like where they explain everything over and over and over again, just in case that person, it's like, you know what, the people who do watch it all the time, they need to be respected too. Stop over-explaining the show. Let them.
That's way smarter than you think.
Yeah, the audience we're talking about. And this is one of the things that the writer or the network and writers often get kind of stuck into, is that from our perspective, the intelligence of the audience is sometimes not respected as much as we'd like to. Like, for us, saying less and doing more is better, as opposed to explaining shit all the time. But anyway, I digress.
And a lot of it is sacrificed with the fact that, you know, we're primarily a procedural show as well. I mean, ultimately, you've got to solve that case by the end of the episode.
Well, so this is what we've struggled with.
You know, there's a structure within that that means there's, you know, you have a lot of exposition, you have a lot of explaining to do, and sometimes when you get tight up against episodes and they're not quite working out as well, there's a lot of explaining that happens, and then a lot of our development within the characters gets sacrificed for the fact that, hey, they got to explain to you why that crazy monster did what they did.
Yeah, so you're trying to fit like some character development within why Mrs. Henderson, high school teacher, is really the swamp creature.
It's why that's Marley.
Why that's exactly. And why that's possible and pertinent to Bo's storyline of finding her mother. Because, oh my God, she was the handmaidens. A handmaid's teacher back in Fay High School, and knew the secret location of Trick's blood book, blood diary. Tune in next time.
The Blood Diaries. That's the spin-off. That's his spin-off.
That's
The
right,
Blood
the Blood
Diaries.
Well, we wait for the Blood Diaries to come out.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think our time is up. Let's give a big round of applause.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Doesn't help, but thank you. This is way down. This is way down.
Way down in the hole.